Hi everyone, it's Allen with Earthglow. Welcome back to another new video. In today's video, we are going to be making summer Lovin candles. Now, this is what I always call my summer collection, and it embodies usually some fragrances that I bring back every year. Like this one you see here is a mix of Candle Science Blood Orange and Orange Blossom. It's my Florida Sunshine candle. And my summer Lovin collection also typically has usually a newer fragrance or two each year as well. You all know me, I'm a fragrance freak and proud, so we always have to keep it fun. So how I usually start off is weighing out all of my different oils, and I usually do this while my wax melter is already melting the wax. Now, for my wax for these candles, I will be using CB2, as you saw at the beginning. It's also sometimes known as Cal Soy if you buy it from the manufacturer. These cases I actually got from Northwood, but they kept them in the manufacturer's packaging. So Cal Soy, CB2, also known as Soy Bliss or number 7, they're all the same wax. This next one here is what I call my Vacay Creme Brulee candle. And this one uses Candle Science's Creme Brulee fragrance. Now, if you want all the specific formulas of the wicks I'm using, all my fragrance blends, definitely check out my Patreon below. It costs about the same as getting a cup of coffee per month at Starbucks, and you get a ton of recipes. You actually get full access to my whole vault of recipes, so there's several dozen in there, formulas that I use specifically for my own business, as well as new formulas that I'm always adding as well. And you can also chat with me and get a response back within 24 hours to candle making questions. So a lot of great benefits to take advantage of on Patreon. Again, that's linked in the description. This next candle here I use Red Sangria for. Now, this one is not as popular as some of my other scents, and this is probably a scent that I will discontinue soon once I run out of oil. It's definitely popular with a very select crowd, but it's not, it just doesn't get the number of sales overall that I would like to see. Now, the fragrance that you just saw me pour there, the Caramel Popcorn by Candle Science, that is my Disney Boardwalk candle. I'm absolutely obsessed with that fragrance. It's very popular as well. A select crowd, but it's a large select crowd that tends to like that one. This next one that you see that I'm pouring out here is a blend, and it's a blend of 3 different oils. The first one that I'm pouring in here is Volcano Type by Aztec. It's one of the only oils that I use from this supplier. And then I'm also going to be blending in 2 other oils from Candle Science. So oftentimes I'll have these already pre-made, but with some blends, I may not have enough pre-made to make however many candles I'm trying to make. And so I will have to basically kind of pour each oil. And either way, I found works very well. I know some candle makers have said if you pre-mix your oils, I've heard some people say that they've had issues with that. I've never experienced any issues pre-mixing my oils with hot throw or any discrepancies from pouring them out separately each time. So the last oil in this blend is Grapefruit and Mangosteen by Candle Science, and this one by itself is really good. It smells very spa-like, and it's just a popular oil. I've never sold it by itself, but I've seen a lot of other candle makers successfully do that. And then this next one that I'm doing is my Hummingbird candle, and Hummingbird is Straight Honeysuckle Jasmine by Candle Science. I absolutely love this scent. I'm not a floral person typically, but this honeysuckle it's such a happy, joyous scent. And when I was little, we used to have honeysuckle bushes outside, and we would always pick the honeysuckle bushes and make a whole vase of honeysuckle. And that, I don't know, to me, it was one of the first signs of summer. And also, my mom was really into feeding the birds, and so we would have hummingbirds come to the honeysuckle all the time, and sip the nectar out of it with their little like pointed beaks. So anyways, that's where the name inspiration for this one comes from. So this next one that I'm going to be pouring in is a blend. I used to call it Spill the Tea, and that's what I put on the beaker here. Yeah, and same case with this one. So these are both examples of fragrances that Spill the Tea is a blend. It's actually a blend of Honeysuckle Jasmine by Candle Science along with Lemon Pound Cake by Candle Science. And so the name, I originally came up with because I thought it smelled like having like a tea party in the summertime. And there wasn't much other inspiration behind it. And a lot of people didn't really know what to do with that type of a name. Like they didn't know where I was going with it, is what I had customers kind of tell me. And usually there's some type of a story or inspiration behind a name. Now, there are some candles that I'll just call like banana bread, for example. It's a really basic scent like that. But a lot of times I have a specific inspiration. And this one, it was a little bit too nebulous. So I would encourage you, if you're having trouble with sales on a scent that customers otherwise say they like, but are just a little confused by the name, change the name and tell your customers that you've changed the name, but this fragrance blend remains unchanged that they knew and loved. So this one in particular, I changed the name to Lavender Lemon Cake. And I think that at least from my small test group of friends and family that smelled it and have burned it, along with all the other customers who just like the scent. I've had this particular fragrance blend in my collection for the last 4 years. I feel like this name is going to work a lot better for it. And then the one to the right, I used to call Island Smudge. That one is Pineapple Sage by Candle Science. Now, I changed the name to Island Retreat just out of respect for our Native Americans. I had several people point that out, that smudge is a little bit more of a term that, is a little more respectful to avoid. So it is called Island Retreat. And I feel like that really embodies the Pineapple Sage vibe that this fragrance brings. So with this wax, I typically stir for about a minute and then I'll pour straight into my piston funnels. And these guys I always have linked below, as well as in my Amazon storefront. And you can always check out my Amazon storefront linked in the description for candle making supplies that I use, as well as soap making supplies. There's a category for markets. There's a category for shipping, all kinds of stuff on there. And for these candles, I do pour them right away. So if you watched any of my older videos where I'm making candles with the 464 wax, which I used to use, and if you're pretty new to the channel, I don't use that wax anymore. I did use it for a number of years. I'll try to link my videos below as to why I stopped using it, if you're not up to date on that one. This wax in particular, and a lot of the coconut waxes that I've used recently too, they set up a lot quicker. So I will just pour 2 of my pitchers and then I'll pour them straight away into candles. So I don't pour a whole bunch of pitchers at once and then wait until they get to the right temperature to put them into the candles. This wax works best if you get it really hot. So I like to go, I'd say between like 205 and 210. And then I will pour it right after I've stirred in my fragrance. So a really easy wax to use. The downfall to it is it's pretty expensive, I would say. It's known as more of like a luxury wax, and I really wish the price point were better, but I would say that it's a great wax. You're not going to get sinkholes with this. You're going to get great jar adhesion. It takes dyes pretty well. I don't have a ton of experience with dyes just because I typically don't use them in my own candles. It's not that I have anything against them. It's just, I tend to like the look of just the natural cream colored wax. This wax does take dyes pretty well. Not going to be as good as one of your like IGI 6006 or your straight paraffins. Paraffins will take dyes much better in general than a predominantly soy wax with a small amount of paraffin added to it, like CB2. So for these ones, I do use the Permatex still, and you know, I've gotten away from that in all my other containers and now just use the regular wick stickers, which I definitely feel like are better overall because customers have an easier time removing them and then they can repurpose their jar. But the thing is with these tins, because of the fact that they're wider than they are tall, and they also tend to burn a little bit hotter than the jars and concrete candles that I make, I do just feel more comfortable using the Permatex because I know for a fact that that wick is not going anywhere. And I do just use these wick bars. You can get these on Amazon. You can also get them on Candle Science. I'll try to link some of the ones below that I get on Amazon. Now you can see sometimes I'll bump the wicks and they kind of flap off to the side like that. Usually what I like to do is wait until my pitcher, and I speak from experience here, I wait until my pitcher is totally out of wax or my piston funnel, and then I'll go back and fix the wick. I don't fix it when there's still wax in my piston funnel. It's just too risky for me to do personally. This is one of my favorite things, is pouring these candles. My kitchen, my whole house just smells so good. And oftentimes I'll group the scents so that way I can use the same piston funnels. So if I'm doing like a bakery scent and then I'm doing a clean scent, for example, I'm definitely going to be using totally separate piston funnels. But when you're working within the same scent family or very similar scent families, like for example, a bakery / floral scent going to a floral scent, that, you know, is absolutely fine. But if you're using, say, like a coffee scent and then you're going to like a high tide, like a ocean scent, for example, I would definitely use separate piston funnels in that case. And so what I'll do is I'll have all these off to the side with the little post-it notes, and those just have the name of the candle or the name of the fragrance, whatever's going to make it easier for me to know exactly what that is. But usually for me, because a lot of these candles I've made for years and years, I will just have the name of my candle. So if it's a fragrance blend, it wouldn't have the names of the individual fragrances. It would just be the name of my candle. And then I'll transfer these post-it notes from the beakers to the pitchers that I'm pouring them into, and then from the pitchers to wherever the candles are that I'm pouring. And I will, because I'm working with my kitchen, I will try to fit as many candles as I safely can. And I say this in almost every video, but I'm going to keep saying it. If you're like me and you're making candles in your kitchen where you have very limited space and you can't access, say, the other half of your countertop, using these piston funnels is going to be the way to go for you, because you'll have much more control when you're trying to pour and reach over things, and it will really help your back as well. It will put you in much less weird angles than if you were trying to pour each one straight from the pitchers. I use these silicone spatulas to do all my mixing. They're complete silicone, and I think that these work better than any spatulas I've used for that reason. They're just so easy to clean, and I've used the same set for years. So I'll have these guys linked below as well. And just stirring for a good solid minute. You can stir this wax for less time, but it definitely doesn't hurt. Put it this way, you'll do yourself harm if you stir it for too short of a time. But if you stir it for too long, if you stir for a minute as opposed to 20 seconds, that's not going to hurt a thing. But if you stir for, too short of a time, you risk the fragrance not being all the way incorporated. Because what the goal is here is we get the wax to the optimal temperature that the wax molecules are fully expanded. And whatever wax you're working with, that would be information that you'd find from the manufacturer of that wax. The supplier, the person that you purchased the wax from, like Candle Science, Flaming Candle, Virginia Candle Supply, Midwest, wherever it may be, they will have usually the information directly from the supplier on their website. But this candle we're pouring now is Golden Girls, and this has been one of my best sellers for the last, this has probably been my number 1 to number 2 bestseller for the last 5 summers that I've had these candles. And this is Mango and Coconut Milk by Candle Science. Phenomenal thrower, phenomenal seller. And yes, it is named after the Golden Girls TV show. And it's just such a happy scent. People absolutely love this one during the summertime. And I think you could have it all year round and it would do really well. Now, what I typically like to do after I pour these candles is I will let them sit, usually at least like 4 to 5 hours. And then after that time, I will remove the wick stabilizers and possibly trim the wicks. I do find though, if you have a bit of extra time, it helps to wait until the next day to actually trim your wicks, because even if the wax has solidified, or even if it appears to have solidified, it still is under the surface solidifying, and it just helps so that your wick, it's going to look aesthetically the best in my experience if you wait until the next day to trim it. But if you absolutely must do it the same day, I would recommend waiting at least 4 to 5 hours. And I've had a lot of people ask how I clean the piston funnels. These are actually pretty easy to clean. The one thing I will say is it helps, if at all possible, when you are using them, to get them as empty as you possibly can. So even if you have a little tiny bit of wax and there's no more coming out, if at all possible, use a heat gun with the piston funnel all the way open to get those last few drops out if you can. And that's going to help you substantially with cleaning as well as just general maintenance, because I have found with these that a time or two, what has happened is I'll go to press down, the release, and if there's too much wax down there, it forms like a tight seal from the base of the piston funnel and the little suction device down there that kind of blocks off the flow. And it can actually cause the suction to dislodge from the piston funnel itself, and you kind of have to repair the whole thing, which you definitely don't want to happen when the funnel is full of wax. So I've found that using a heat gun can be really useful to get these all the way cleaned out, just keeping it on the open and then using a heat gun. And I typically try to do that right after my last candle that I'm pouring, just to make things easier on myself for the next time. And then what you can do is go in with just some paper towels and some 99% rubbing alcohol and just run that all the way around the sides, the insides of the funnel. And that's going to get whatever residual fragrance scent that you have in there, that's going to get that scent off. Now, you may not even need the rubbing alcohol. You may just be able to do it with paper towel. I've found generally that gets things pretty clean. But if you're feeling like that scent is still lingering in your piston funnel, you can absolutely use a 99% rubbing alcohol, just as you would use to go ahead and clean your containers prior to wicking them. So this usually takes me a few hours to get all my scents poured. These DG boils are really nice. They hold enough wax to make, I would say, about 130 of these 8-ounce tins if you fill the DG boil all the way. And with the slabs of wax that I use, the CB2 wax, I find that I really only have to cut those slabs as long as I leave enough wax in the DG boil so that there's like an inch or two at the bottom. I can put those slabs in just without cutting them at all, and this melter will have no issues. I'll usually cut like several in half, but as long as, again, you have that wax already at the bottom. And then what I'll do when I'm heating this thing up is I will kind of terrace it. So I'll start it off like maybe at 130 or 150, and then I'll gradually increase to like 195, 200, 190. It really depends. I've had a lot of people ask what temperature I set it to for this wax, and it's really hard to say because even with the insulating jacket, when your DG boil is all the way full, you're going to have to set it at a higher temperature to get the same end temperature as you would if your DG boil is really empty or almost empty. So the fuller it is, the hotter you're going to have to set it. But it is pretty accurate. What I found is when it gets lower in wax, when there's like maybe just, 20, 15, 20 pounds of wax left in there, you're going to have to set it at a lower temperature because the heating unit, so for example, if I set it at maybe 185, that wax all the way at the bottom is going to probably get to like 195, for example, or 200. So you're going to have to go under what you would normally. So this is the next day here, and I'm adding on the crystals like I always do for these candles. This was my very first collection in these tins, and this is all I sold for, gosh, the first like 3 years of making candles. I literally had one vessel option and sold thousands of candles a year. It just goes to show you guys, you don't need to have all these different options. If you have one good option, I would say you don't want to go too small and you don't want to go too large. The 8-ounce jelly jars are a great one, for example. They'll hold, I think, about 6 ounces of wax, but that's what these are, is they're 6-ounce candles, and it's just enough for people to be able to get a good candle out of it, but it's not so big that it's intimidating, If people have a scent that they really like in this type of a size, they'll often then go and buy it in a larger size. But oftentimes it's better to have this size than if you were to just have the larger size, if that makes sense. It's a safe kind of right down the middle type of an option. I would say anything between 6 and 8 ounces is going to be like that. Any smaller than, 5 to 6 ounces, and it's just not really enough. Any larger than, 8 ounces, I would say if you're just going to have one size, it's too big. People just they don't want to commit to that yet until they really know how your candles burn and what your company is all about. So what I do with these crystals is I will hand press all of them in, just as you see here. It is a pretty time consuming process, and it's one that I definitely don't do on all my candles. This is the only vessel that you'll see crystals in, and it's just something that I've done since day one. This is the first product, like I said, that I ever had, and I've kept it for many of my customers that have been here since day one. But even the larger size options that I have in these candles, the black iridescent Evermore cylinders that I recently released, I do not use crystals in those. I find, especially with the double wicking, that the crystals can kind of cause it to burn a little bit unevenly, and I'm not really into that. So, and in addition, in those vessels, they can be very hard to clean the sides of. With these crystals, I generally, after I've pressed them in and used the heat gun and everything, I will do a full wipe down top and bottom of these candles, just because it can be a bit of a craft project and make kind of a mess, but that's just kind of the nature of it. So after I press them in, I will go with a creme brulee torch and I will torch them. So, and I try to make the colors of the crystals correspondent with whatever the name of the candle is as much as possible. Some of them are a little more abstract though. Like this is the Disney Boardwalk, which is caramel popcorn by Candle Science. And I don't know, it's just, they're so beautiful. And what ends up happening when you burn these candles is the crystals will just kind of sink to the bottom. And then when the candle's done, people can melt down the wax and get them out that way. Or they could technically remove them prior to burning the candle, but that's really not necessary. These are all silicone-based minerals, and so they will not burn and they will not be altered by a high temperature. These are typically going to be metamorphic rocks, and they're very used to volcanic activity, and a lot of them are, millions of years old. And so it's a myth that the crystals will burn in the candle or that they'll release any harmful toxins when they're silicates like this. That is a myth. And so I'm just kind of going through here with the torch and getting these kind of melted in better. I know some people will place them on the top before the wax is melted all the way. That method has never really worked for me. And then on these ones, as you can see, I have kind of a larger stone that I've already pressed in first with the creme brulee torch. And I'm then going through and pressing in the other crystals after I've already torched that larger one. Just because when I pressed it in, it creates a lot of wax that kind of, if I were to torch that down along with all these crystals, it would kind of cause the smaller crystals to get buried. And the other thing I want to mention about these tins, and I'll have the exact ones that I'm using linked below. You can get them pretty inexpensively on Amazon. But these particular tins, they have a sleeker look to them, so they'll close and they'll form like a completely smooth surface from top to bottom. There's no like overhang from the lid. But what I will say is you have to make sure you don't go too high such that you lose the ability to put the lid on. And that can easily happen. So just definitely when you're doing your fills and your testing, watch out for that. So these candles that I'm finishing up here are the Golden Girls, and I'll wait to do my labeling until after I've pressed in all the crystals, finished with the creme brulee torch, and done a full wipe down of the candle vessels with just a paper towel. I do stick on the warning labels first. I find that since those are on the bottom, they don't really get in the way of anything. I'm super excited to offer these to you guys. This again is our limited edition Summer Lovin' collection, and it's always been a hit. I find that if you release seasonal collections, like for example, if you just had one regular collection, you could have challenges in my experience. Well, I shouldn't say in my experience because I've always had a summer collection, but you could have challenges selling just your regular candles in the summertime. I would say that's absolutely possible. But if you release like a special collection that's geared for that season, specifically in the summertime, I find that that can really help with overall sales. And you'll even drive attention to your other candles in the summertime as well. Now these ones here that I'm torching are the Florida Sunshine. So that is that Orange Blossom and the Blood Orange by Candle Science. Exact blend is available on my Patreon. And then this is the Mint Mojito candle. This is a really fun one. It's got the Pre-Night with Aphido as well as the Dalmatian Jasper. And these are the labels that I use for these candles. I print them all myself, and they're just so fun and colorful. All the images come from either Adobe stock, or I've gotten some of them from like Shutterstock, pretty much any stock photography image. You will have to pay for the royalties to use them, but they're so worth it, you guys. They add so much color to your creations, and I think that the branding is so important. So this is the final effect of these candles. I'm so excited with how these came out. And I'm super, super excited. I know my launch is kind of late this year, but I've had a lot going on, and I'm so happy to finally have these available. Oh my goodness. You can also see on the top of these candles, I have put some hand ground mica. But I'm just so happy with how these turned out, you guys. Every time I make them, they just bring so much joy into my life. The Beach Bum is that blend that I was showing earlier that has the 3 different oils in it. And again, all my exact blends to all these candles will be available in my Patreon. And I'll have that linked below if you want to check that out and take advantage of dozens of other recipes that I have that I've formulated myself and used for my own business. Fragrance blends, specific concrete pigments, formulas, right down to the wax, the wicks, and I often offer alternate options based on different types of containers and waxes for my concrete formulas in there. But anyways, I'm sending all of you peace, love, and light, and I'm wishing all of you happy candle making. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed. I would like to take the time to thank my patrons for their incredible support. A massive shout out goes to Wendy, Nicole Rott, Nancy with All About Me Beauty Bar, Merle, Brad with Neon City Scents, Michelle, Paula, Zahara with Crystalline Candle Co., Julie with Belux Candle Co., Jennifer with Bea Essentials, Selena with Banbury Street Creations, Sue, Nick, Bruce, Flavia, Jennifer with Bittersweet Candle Co., Danielle, Anitra with Ninth and Maxwell, Matthew, Jindy, Lisa, Elizabeth, Carol, Cheryl with Soap Spice Cheryl, Maya, Losa, Luzdari, Daichi, John with Past Sense Candles, Angela, Amber, Bluegrass Bath and Candle Co., Marquita with The Beat Institute, Allie, Carla, Todd with Cold Creek Candle Co., Krista, SS, Karen with River Birch Soaps, Kina with Kijoli, Angela, Amanda, Denise with Grumblegeist Candle Co., She's More, Cindy, Kim, Teresa, Frida, Shiromi, J Creative P, Colette, Nicole, Stella, Leanne, Martha, Angela, Jamie, Chadwick, Z, Mabel, Arev, Bobby, Jamie, Amy with Candle Emporium, Stephanie, Honey, Terry, Maria, Genevieve, Gracie, Yolanda, Tonya, Susan, Irene, Rolanda with Mason Marzette, Megan, Melissa, Ursulette with Ursulette's Beauty Secrets, Kelly, TCM with Ava Bryceco, Lois, Tia, Victoria with The Sacred Prayer, Valerie, Stacy with Firewick with Me, Belinda, Rhonda, Smadar, Duchess Luxury Creations, Juliet, Carla, Crystal with Indigo Scents Candle Co., Anika, Kim with Kimberly's Candle Co., Kim, Angelic, Tia, Chris, Miss S, Shakira, Tiffany, Kim, BN, Lizette, Chandra, Pat, Chickadee Company, Tara, Indigo, SJ, Gina, Emily, Sandra, Heidi, Sunday, Michelle, Lisa, Angela, Kelly, Angela, Natalie with Walters Wicks, Sherry, Cynthia, Denise, Sonia, Natasha, Aziza's Closet, Edward, Shambliss Candles and Soaps, Sabina, Raphael with Alondra's Candle Co., Desi, Kim, Abby Lane Candle Co., Christina, Tommy with Rose and Crown Soap, Tara, Joy, Katie, Diane, Kelly, Judith, Sherry, Diane, Courtney with 17 December's Candle Co., Stacy, Yvette, Teresa with All About Serenity, Janetta, Monica, Nick, Tim, Diane with Todafor, Anne with Sweet Annie's Natural Skincare, Jennifer with Honey's House Handcrafted, Michelle, Maria, Sarah, Alex, Roslyn with Hers and Hers Candle Co., Susan, Shaylee, Ia, Christopher, Louv, Brianna with Be Home Dispensary, Megan, Victoria, Ash, Nicole, Virginia, Kathy, Melania, Susie, Aaron, Regina with Adobe Rose Botanicals, Scott, Dana with MJ's Candle Creations, Leah, Stacy, Donna, Jennifer with The Clean Theory Candle Co., Maria, Mary, Zoe, Amber, Brandy, Peppa, Phil, Georgiana with Tropic Candle, Gazelle with Bozaifa, Helen, Brian with Light and Life Candles, Carla, Linda, Angela, Jane, Thomas, Anna, Jane with Peyton's Place Soapery, Evelyn with Divergent Glow, Tara with Cotton Picking Creations, Lynn, Martha, Kat, Danielle, Janelle, Sylvia with Two Chicks with Sense, Karen, Tammy with Nudie Bar Soap Co., Sandra, Karen, Crystal, Margaret with Sista Diva Design, Lori, Marcus, Anna with Ren and Rita, Devin, Christine, Melissa, Donna, Martha with Peachberry Candles, Neolin, Magnus, Kenneth, Michael, Nada, Joss, Raquel, Labushi, Rusnaini, Margie, Lasonia, Mariah, Regina, Carmen with Isabel and Soaping Co., Jen, Kels, Bridget, Patricia, Carol, Shante, Jenna, Jennifer, Angela, George, Dahlia, Wendy, Penny, Amy with Grace and Light Candle Co., Sabina with Butterfly and Lotus Candle Co., Gabrielle, Bryn, Scott, Fawn, Martha, Cheryl, Angela, Meg, Turtle Creativity, Renee, Catherine, Denisha, Stephen, Stefani, and Charlie. Your support is deeply appreciated.